Dr. Mustafa Barghouti is the Secretary General and co-founder of the Palestinian National Initiative. Dr. Barghouti is now joining us live from Ramallah. Doctor, welcome to the show. President Mahmoud Abbas says he wants elections in West Bank and Gaza if circumstances allow. What circumstances is he referring to, and what factors will make it conducive to hold an election?
Well, we would not have had to go through all the suffering we had during the last 2 years if we had elections in 2021, when all the Palestinian groups agreed to have elections. And then Israel did not give permission to start to do elections in Jerusalem, and that was used as an excuse to cancel elections by Mr. Abbas. In our opinion, we should have proceeded with elections, and we should have enforced elections in Jerusalem without Israeli permission. We could have made it a very good popular nonviolent resistance act to show that Palestinians are all united and unified. Unfortunately, that plan was accepted by all parties but was not accepted by the authority. And because of that, we didn't have elections, which means for 20 years we didn't have presidential elections nor parliamentary elections. My worry is that the same phrase is used again. Elections will happen if the appropriate conditions are there. What is appropriate conditions?
Right.
Shall we give Israel the veto right over our elections? That's unacceptable. And that's why I think what is missing in Mr. Abbas' speech is the fact that he didn't refer to the need of national unity by implementing the same agreement that his party signed, which is the Beijing agreement, that says there should be a national consensus government that will prepare for having elections as soon as possible.
Mr. Barghouti, what will be the significance then of the creation of a vice presidential position and amnesty for expelled members of his Fatah party?
The issue of the internal issue of Fatah amnesty, that's a matter that relates to Fatah. We don't interfere in Fatah internal business. But regarding a vice president position, that is not in the constitution of the PLO. And it requires the approval of the Palestinian National Council. He knows that very well. And so I don't know if it is a real thing or it's just one way of maneuvering to escape the huge pressures that are exercised on the Palestinian Authority. But at the end of the day, how can we have a vice president that is not elected? At the end of the day, nothing will substitute for popular legitimacy. And that will never happen unless we have free democratic elections as soon as possible. That will include, of course, West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, despite Israeli position and despite Israeli rejection or acceptance. We should have these elections as soon as possible. And at the same time, I think if we talk about true real reform, there has to be efforts to implement what all parties have signed.
Right.
Again, the formation of a national consensus government.
Dr. Barghouti, finally, I know you did mention that it's difficult to talk about Fatah, but the return of Fatah is already a point of contention, like you mentioned there. How will the government work with Fatah if the presence of Hamas is still there?
That's why I'm saying we need a national consensus government, because Hamas told us in our meetings in Beijing and before that in Moscow that they don't want to be the government. They don't want to be even in the government, but they want a government that is acceptable to them and that is acceptable to us as well, as opposition in Palestine. And that's why we need a national consensus government. That's the only solution. But to think that you can bring back the authority to Gaza without reconciliation with other political parties, I think it's just unrealistic. And that's why I think the right approach is to really go for the formation of national consensus government. That's the right way. The kind of reform we need is not what the World Bank would impose on us. The kind of reform we need is democratization, is reunification of Palestinians, is accepting the principle of democratic participation for everybody.
All right. Dr. Barghouti, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for all your insights today.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.